Now we're using Ontonoggin's Road Commission's database because they have nicely thanked us, and we're using them as our integration with the fleet management of Samsara. So they've got the little devices in all their trucks to get mileage and things like that. They can click on, and we've integrated that into our software for preventive maintenance. They should know that is here. If you don't have them and you have somebody else, we'll be glad to work with that and add another uh, piece in there. The way we did it isn't just Samsara. We built it so that we could have 3, 4, 5, 6 different kinds in our software. But we can't have two at the same time. It's one, you only get one fleet management software that you're doing on the web. All right. So let's just begin where everything begins. You'll see a new equipment screen. Again, it's basically done by just like all our other screens that we've done in maintenance. If you've gone through them, like you've done the inventory mate, you've kind of seen this same kind of thing where you have the uh, filters and things like that to be able to go through equipment. All the same fields as the current equipment mate. But you'll notice there's several things that are kind of missing. One is like histories and a work order list, because we wanted to separate that from setting up and maintaining one piece of equipment, if everybody kind of understands that. Okay, so then we can look at the way preventive maintenance is set up at this point. It works around a thing called a maintenance task. And the terminology is going to change. We used to have line numbers. Everything is now considered a task that you're doing for a particular piece of equipment. So I've created just a few little tasks here, but the tasks are essentially how we define what meters and what is the delta in those meters changing when we want to see the task. So we're going to go ahead and create a new task. Our new task name will be, Mike, give a shout. What would you like it to be?
Um, transmission check.
Transmission flush.
Okay,
Yeah.
so we would call that a transmission
Flush.
inspection. Oh,
There you
flush.
go.
Okay.
That'll work either way.
Excuse my piss poor typing. Okay, so now when this transmission flush goes on to a purchase or to a work order, you probably want to tell the guy a little bit more than just transmission flush. Now, sometimes that's enough and you don't need to, but we would like you to understand you have 2,000 characters to say, you know, uh, maybe if there's like 3 steps to transmission flush or something. So I'm just going to put in and what's the filter? Inspect and replace uh, filter.
Oil and filter. Yeah.
You could feel free. So George,
But you get the
Tony-
idea,
Tony-
guys. You get a huge amount of data here so that when the work order is generated, they will see a much bigger description than just transmission flush.
So George, Tony's here now. So
Okay, hi,
it's
Tony.
Hello, sir.
All right, so we're just starting out, Tony. So we're basically just showing the starting of the new preventive maintenance and how the system works together. And I'm just kind of covering what we currently did. This is based on a lot of information we got from our previous meeting way back in January. But again, this is the culmination of that. It takes a while to get all this put together to be able to show and tell anything. So we're just going to say inspect and replace filter and fluid. Now, one of the things we did do is, if you have a few lines like that, this can grow like that. Just so, it's not just one long line in here. You can do a variety of things. We also have a spell check in here, so it doesn't like FDS. So I can right click on it and it's supposed to be feds. Okay. You get the idea. It's your standard, so we did something a little bit to make it so that you're not just, if you have bad keystroking, stuff will show up if there's a space, bad juju land. I'm going to get rid of the carriage returns in here just so it looks a little nicer, but just so you know, it's definitely flexible like that. So the next thing about this transmission flush that we're going to do, Mike, is that we want to have a hard number of days that we're going to want to do this within on a vehicle for this task. You can't be
Yes.
thinking of one vehicle. You're 365,
Sure.
so once a year.
Yep.
Are we going to have a number of hours that we're going to want on vehicles with hours that we're going to want to do with, or just mileage?
So are we going to be able to pick and choose whether it be out, because we run like our services on hours?
Sure, you can pick whatever you tell. If you don't put something in here, then we're not going to use it. Obviously, if I leave that blank, I'm never going to look at hours now for this task. But if I put in every, 700 hours.
Yep.
Okay. Now I'm going to look at hours. That's the nice thing about this. You don't have to set all this stuff up. If I want that as a delta, and if I want mileage as a delta, I can say every 8,000 miles. Well, transmission would probably be more than that, every 30,000 miles. Right?
Gotcha.
Okay. And then usage, again, I'm going to cover usage when we finally roll it out. But basically, usage is when somebody says I use this thing on my time card, the number of hours that I've used it on my time card. So when they go to their times and they say, oh, I use the vehicle, for 8 hours that day, then the usage would be the number of hours after it's been used for. My guess, it would be 800 hours. It's usually a little bit more than the hours of the being, running versus hours of usage. But just so you understand, I'm going to put it in so we have it to kind of show a little bit why we do it. Then this is like a bill of materials. So if there is a set of parts that you would use, now at this level, it's not as useful because the bill of materials for transmission flush could be different between a Ford, a GM, a diesel engine, but you still want to do it. You might have this transmission flush 3 times with different. That's why we show this in parentheses, your deltas, so that you can kind of pick the right one. So we're just going to go ahead and save that one for a new maintenance task today. One of the things that was asked for was a group so that you could have like a group of tasks to add. So when you create a new piece of equipment, when you have a new piece of equipment, you can just pop the groups over and put that on the piece of equipment. So again, here we can create a group. So I'm just going to create a group. We're just going to call this one diesel. And I spelled it wrong, but it is what it is. And then I'm going to add a few tasks to that group. I'm going to do the new transmission flush. And I'm going to do the air and cabin filter. I didn't want to create it. I wanted to save it. So it's pretty straightforward. So now I have these 2 groups. And now comes the part where we have the fun. This is the way we're doing, where you're assigning now to each piece of equipment the task you want to do for preventive maintenance. So I'm coming in here and I've got, we show in color equipment that does actually have a task. And if you go way over, we show the number of tasks that it has. So we're just going to go to this GMC 160 pickup, and we're just going to add our brand new transmission flush task to it. So now I need to know when it was last done. If it was never done, I leave it blank and it will schedule it right away to come in to be done. If you do know when it was last done, so we're just going to pretend that we know where it was last done. It was last done absolutely on February 25th. And we may not know the miles, so we can leave that somewhat blank. But if we do, then it's going to bring in the truck. So we're building something to add. When you add something, you can click a button and get the current mileage from it. So let's just say 3,000. Let's just say it was 120,000 miles was the thing. Hours, since we put in hours in, because we have hours here at 700, the last number of hours done was at 230 hours. And then again, here's where we can change the parts required. Now this one's now specific to just this pickup. So this is where, again, I would suggest, and I don't know their inventory that well here, so I'm just going to do a quick search on this for oil and see what I can come up with. Oh, this was transmission, so trans. Sure, a 517 transmission filter sounds like a part I want. Did I do that right? Yeah, 517 transmission. And then I want to add just one of those. Okay, so you kind of get the idea. So these would be the parts then that would normally be brought in every time that this is done for this truck. And if we had parts at the higher level, it would have copied them here as a beginning starting platform. So we're just going to go ahead and say save. And now, I don't know if you've all understood or followed that. That's what I want to make sure is, clear, because I got questions now about this screen and how we're doing it. Do we think this is going to be easier than what we currently have? And that would be, if you're not using our current one, it's kind of hard to know from it, but our current one has, the same ability. It's just a lot harder to get to.
Yeah, right. I mean, right now, just looking at it, I mean, you've got your job and you've got your code, you got the name, you got the description. So your other one didn't have that information when you looked at the work order. So that's right off the bat. That's, if you save the work order or something and open it back up, then you can see what you've done.
Right. We are separating the work orders from, we're going to be copying the text at the time the work order is generated. And we'll be separating a little bit from the definition of the preventive maintenance. So in other words, when we generate the work order, all the preventive maintenance lives here in this screen.
Yep.
Okay. Work order will update these values, but it lives here. So then the heart of this, of course, is getting in your new meter reads and things like that. So I just wanted to cover that real quick. The only question I have beforehand, though, is that we wanted to pick up was, we have another view, and we didn't know if this was going to be helpful. This is just saying, hey, I've got these tasks out there, and I want to know every vehicle that has this task. Is that a kind of a thing you guys think you would need?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, because then if you're missing a vehicle, I mean, you can look at it and compare them. If you're missing
Okay.
one, then you can just add it.
The problem is, yeah, you can just add the vehicle here. The problem is you got to know, this was another question we had. How do you guys determine or figure out what the hell pieces of equipment you have? Are you just somehow managing to memorize every equipment code?
Say that
For the
again,
most part,
George.
I mean, when I'm looking here, at this point, we just have a name. So when I hit this drop down, we have a number and a name, and I've got what, 4 pickups here that say Ford pickup. But how would you know? I mean, obviously you guys do know because you've been there, 18 zillion years, or, you've had this thing in here 15 times because the dang brake light doesn't work, but you get my point. How do you guys, what's a good way of, I feel like this is not sufficient because when I look at it just as a brand new person, I'm looking at, well, how the hell am I know whether it's the 151, 153, or 150 Ford pickup that we're dealing with? I'm just asking the question, kind of a open-ended question. And Tony, you can kick in. Lisa, you can kick in.
I think what you're asking, George, is for someone who doesn't know the fleet very well, when they look at that list, how do they know which pickup it is?
Correct.
But I'm thinking our guys know every piece of equipment by its number.
Yeah.
This is unfortunate, Lisa, because and basically Mike and Tony, the problem I'm having right now with a lot of this is people stop using us because you have to know that. In other words, a new guy comes in and says, well, shit, I don't know what the hell this is.
So what you're asking is like truck number 152, 20,000 or 2026 Ford F-150 pickup.
Yeah. What is it that would help a new person know what the hell which one that is of your, there's like, this one I think has 11 Ford pickups in their system. Which one of the 11 does this thing have? Because you have a Ford pickup coming down here, the numbering doesn't, now obviously the number was the order they showed up in is basically the way I look at it here. And then you just have pickup. This is even better.
But is that the way they've got it set up in their database?
Yes, this is the way that Tanagan has it set up in their database. Now, if I go to equipment and kind of look at these same codes, so if we buzz down here to my 150s, sorry, I do know it's with the model, a year, and a VIN, I can get to it. So should I be showing these 4 columns everywhere we deal with this? I mean, the year I don't know if I need, but it might still be helpful because we do have, different 250s. Like this is a 2011 250. But is the VIN number the thing to show? I mean, do you guys keep track of that? Probably not. I would think.
Well, we do.
Yeah, we use the VIN number and everything.
I would say that
100%.
information right there.
Okay.
That's my opinion.
I'm with you on that.
Okay. So I'll try to make sure that when we have
And
lists that drop down, so like, we can change it to be like in here, if I go to add assign equipment, instead of that, I can have it be one of our other lists. Let's see if I can do one. Colin, another list, part list. We can put, like we show a list like this with code, name, and description. We can do that and have make, model, and it just kind of stretches out a little bit, but this is desktop software, not, cell phone software. If you follow that idea concept.
Yep.
Okay. So again, and on here, we kind of did the same thing. If we go back to this view, we kind of have make, model, VIN, year, and year. If you stretch it out, we just don't have room on the screen unless I, make my screen enormous size. Then we get
everything we need.
Yeah, this way you're not flipping back and forth between screens. You got everything on basically one.
Yeah, we're trying to make the preventive maintenance setup screen kind of be one. So again, like if you don't need the VIN and you guys are good, you can just kind of keep it smaller and have more room for this, for some of the other stuff. Okay, so I've got 4 pieces, right now we're showing that we have 4 pieces of equipment that actually have some PM set up. Now this is helpful when you do go through this list to say, oh wait, we got this tandem Peterbilt that didn't have anything. When it's in just white, it doesn't have any preventive maintenance setup. Okay, so we wanted to give you a way a quick color code way to say, oh, I've got 2 more Ford pickups. We haven't added it yet, but I'm thinking it would be more helpful for if I had I've set up this Ford pickup for 2016. I want a couple of the other ones to be just like it. So I want to be a way to be able to right click on that and say copy, and I'll right click and say paste. I think that would be helpful as well.
Copy paste option would be great.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that way you're not setting all this up every time independently, if you know what I'm saying. Okay. So let's assume all this is done. Everything is great. I've got it all set up. I think we've made it easier than, the current thing because it's kind of more visual. And again, I think colors help by, making it so that you can see different colors and stuff. So I do think that's going to be helpful for you guys to, quickly make identifications for creating and setting this stuff up. Okay, so let's try the next part. And that is meter reads. Now we're changing meter readings radically from our existing system. So this is a mock-up. It's mostly done, but basically for meter reads, we're going to have 1 meter read per equipment. That's a lot. Well, I should say that one meter read per equipment per type. So you can have 1 read for the last read of the mileage. That's all we keep. And the last read of the hours, that would be all we would keep. And then the date that we got that reading and where we got that reading from will be maintained on this screen in a little cleaner way. But entering them, if you have to manually enter one, it's real easy. You just put in the date. So I'm going to say as a 5/3, the piece of equipment that I'm doing was, and you can just type it in. I'm just picking it because I can't type, was the Ford 2000 van. The type of a thing this was his hours, and the value was 190 hours. And submit. Boom. That's it. You don't have to find it in the list above. You don't have to highlight it. You just key all that in. So you can just kind of go right through and buzz through and put in 25 entries really quickly. And then the other thing we've done that's separate, that's different from here, is we've made this completely independent as far as being completely accurate. If it's not right, just go in and change it. It isn't the end of the world that this is modified. Now we'll show it as a manual change, but again, you get kind of the idea. There'll be a button up here to get it from a fleet manager. We have that. I'll show that in a minute when we get to the building your work orders, that you're doing, and you're going to really like that, I hope. But again, I just wanted to cover this. Is there anything here you think, because the way we started looking at it, and there's going to probably be 3 or 4 different places where meter reads can come into our system. Right now, we'll have import meter reads, which is just a way to bring it in from a CSV file that will probably be combined with import fuel readings. So if you import the fuel readings, you can, again, this isn't done, but we have a lot of fuel systems that will show here's the last meter read of that piece of equipment. Okay. So again, meter readings will be more friendly than it used to be. There's no history. I don't care what the last reading was before this, because this doesn't matter. I don't need to keep track of any old readings, because everything is kind of generated off of what was the reading when the last PM was done. Does that kind of make more sense to you guys? Because our meter readings before was really complicated. You really had to have everything squared away right when you did it. You had that life meter reading and all that kind of jazz.
Right.
That's gone.
This advice for you.
Yes, no, I need to hear it, guys. I can't.
Yes.
I'm just okay.
Yes, yep,
Okay.
we're still processing.
Okay, I want to give you guys a minute to process that, because I mean this is a radical change from the way we've been doing it.
Well, in our situation, the fuel ratings that we do from our tanks are maintaining our previous mileages or hour meters, so we're in good shape there.
Yeah, so I mean it'll come right in and it'll just go right into here. And if you do have like Samsara, which is what Tanagan has, we'll show that in a minute. So if you notice the different dates on here for the readings, this was for 5/6, so that was yesterday's reading. So when I click the button, we'll come back here, and I don't have it here. Eventually we'll have one here, but it's right now. But you'll see these will all turn to 5/7 because I just got today's reading of that vehicle, and it gets both the hours and the mileage right from their system. It's kind of cool. But anyways, this is meter readings. This is kind of the heart of how we know when the next thing is coming up. Okay, so then let me just double check. Okay, so Colin, I think we got the answer on how they would be able to find a piece of equipment, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And then I think that other screen is helpful, that other view we have of it to say, what each task has, what piece of equipment they're using it. The other thing I want to mention in the preventive maintenance side is we are going to let you just, if you want to delete a whole task, you can. It'll remove it from everybody. That's the way it is. But the downside is, of course, the last time, if you wanted to replace it, the last time this task was done will be lost because you deleted it. And when you assign it to a truck, same kind of thing. So I come here and I go, oh, I don't want the brake inspection. I can delete it right here. It's not going to worry. It'll stop you and say, if there is, it will say there is last done information available on it. Do you really want to delete it? If you say yes, it will. We don't want to hold this stuff to be old. In other words, before we had to keep all that history so that an older work order could be shown properly. Like I said, that's why we're changing work orders that we're dealing with and how we store it, to not have to have any of that. Preventive maintenance has to maintain its old values just so we can show a work order. I don't know if you knew you needed to do that, but okay. Just let you know. We're trying to build it so it doesn't. The new work orders, again, is much like the rest of our system. It's, when you go into work orders, you can come in through here. You can sort by equipment number to get your equipments. You can do the filtering. You can say, I just want to see it for, I just want to see 359 equipment. So boom, that's all the, if there's more than one, I didn't pick a good one. But you get the idea. It's going to be helpful to have all of these different things available. Okay. So we come in here, you can then limit. Right now, we only show open work orders. If you want to see the closed ones as well, you hit the limit. You'll see the closed work order as well. Once a work order is closed, that's kind of a lock. We don't let you change anything. That's the whole point of it being closed. But it's not a big deal to go in and reopen a closed work order. That all kind of makes sense?
Yep.
Okay. This stuff up here is going to change quite a bit, so we have to, we haven't done that work yet today, on it yet. But again, the big thing is we want to get the new preventive maintenance adopted, so then everything else can get modified and to be reflected of it. Okay, so without further ado, you've got the understanding of how we set up a preventive maintenance schedule. You've got how we are maintaining that schedule by using the setting up of it to keep track of when the last time it was done. So now let's go look at this. We used to have a work order calc screen that would just, bang, you do it and it would do it all and create all the work orders and you didn't really have much choice. Okay, this is our new work order calc, if you would. So again, color is helpful to quickly identify things. So we basically came in and said, look, you're going to need to know your equipment. So we kind of did this. We don't have the VIN in here, but again, sometimes the VIN is big, so we might make it scrollable, have the VIN. But basically, you understand I've got 4 pieces of, you're only going to see equipment in here that has preventive maintenance until you bring in fault codes and DVIR requests from fleet management. And that's what we'll show that in a minute. But for right now, from the straight preventive maintenance, you see that 3 are due. If I go look at why they're due, I can say, oh, here are the PMs. It is 36 days. The plus means it's overdue by that number of days. That's what made it due. So like here, I show days. This means there's 54 more days before this comes in, or 19,000 miles before this comes in again. So you can kind of see, and it does the math for you. So you can kind of see where the thing is, when it's supposed to come in, where it's supposed to come in, and things like that. You can see the last date that each of these different preventive maintenance tasks was done. So again, I have 2 that are overdue, so you'd probably want to select those 2 and generate a work order. But hey, this is only 54 days away. Do I want to bring it in again? No, let's just do this one as well. How cool is that?
Nice.
I like that.
Okay, now here's where it gets fun. If you look at the yellow one, the Dodge Ram, he's just upcoming. So you can kind of look at him, and he's marked in yellow because he doesn't have anything due yet, but heck, it's 9 days away. And 23 days away. So you may want to bring those 2 in as well. If that suits you. Maybe you're busy, so no, let's let that wait till it's overdue. And then when this becomes yellow is part of this thing we call the meter completion percentage. Now, it's a terrible name. It's, it's a programmer's name. Eventually, I'm going to want to get with you guys to say, what the heck do we want to call it? But this is just the percent of what is completed when we want to show it in yellow like it's coming up. So if I were to say, like, I want this to be 60%, I can hit recalculate the task. And now I will show on 150 this brake inspection, even though before it was 54 days and it wasn't showing in yellow, it will show in yellow. Kind of makes sense. You kind of understand that. So you can kind of look, and then you can change the date. So if I want to say, hey, I want to see what next month is going to look like at the end of the month, what's going to be due, I can recalculate, and it will recalculate everything that will be due based on that date. So now this inspect fluid is due because it's going to be 135 days past due in another month. Does that all make sense?
Yeah.
So if you can do that. So then you can go back to today and you just have to recalculate the task and you're back to today's. Now, whenever you create a work order, it's going to create it with today's date. No, it doesn't matter what you set up here. It'll just create that work order with today's date. So you got to be kind of careful about, if you look in the future and then say, oh, I want to create these work orders, it's going to be as of today. So just, be aware of that. All right. So now I talked about being in fleet management. So I can say update meter readings. And this is going to be, wherever you get it from. So I just pulled these in, all the meter readings they have 63 pieces or 63 trucks in their Samsara thing. So if I go back to, let's just quickly, I'll show kind of it. I think 150 is there. So try to remember these mileages because it was 1953, then 1493 overdue. So if I recalculate, nope. That one didn't get a read. 154. Oh, we didn't check 154's previous one. So let me come back to the meter reads. And you'll notice that we have new reads for these at 5.7. So that's their current mileage that they have. It was just like that. I clicked a button and I got pretty much everything that's under their fleet management. So there's quite a bit. I guess if I just sort it by miles date and I go down there, you'll see everything that's 5.7 is they've got in fleet management on their automated. Same thing with the hours. I mean, what's interesting is this, gets it for the day. And if I do it again, if this truck is in motion, I will get a new number if I do it again. Just so you kind of get the understanding of it. What's that?
I don't know really how this stuff works, George. I'm just
Okay.
watching.
All right.
Sorry.
So you guys kind of understand, how helpful this can be. I think I got today's date. Oh, I got it at 60.
So I got a question, George.
Yes.
So you're pulling in pieces of equipment that have the Samsara units in them, which are pickup trucks, and for me to be pickup trucks and plow trucks, okay?
Correct. Yep.
You've got pieces of yellow iron out there, loaders, backhoes, stuff
Yep.
like that,
Sure.
where we're not going to have a Samsara unit in
Right.
there. So is that
Somehow are you getting readings from that at this point? Somehow at one point, I mean, there is still a case where you're going to have to walk out to the vehicle and get a reading at some point if you've got no other way of automating that reading.
but could you run it underneath that other option of the time card that you mentioned?
Yeah. I mean, there's going to be a lot of places where they can, fuel is usually the best place when they fill it up. But, like if it's an electric backhoe, if it's an electric forklift, obviously you're not going to get when you plugged it in, type in your fuel meter reading.
Right.
But or if it's, you get the idea. If you don't, we could possibly put something on a time card. I'm not ready to put that into my work yet. That's going to be a little bit more dicey for us to have that there because it's too easy for someone to put in any damn number they want without realizing that this is, important. And end up, because right now you can go into here and type in any damn number you want, and we're going to use that number as the real deal. But this way, if it's wrong, you can fix it, and we'll use that number as the real deal. Whereas before, you type in a bad number, and it does this whole life meter crap, and your whole day is pretty much ruined after that, trying to square it up again. So
on our end, if the operator is punching in, they put 6 hours on that piece of equipment. Not necessarily was there 6 hours utilized.
Right, and that's fine. And you got to understand when we did that usage thing, that was governed, and it said, look, it's not, normally you would say 6 real hours. So if it's the usage hours, you have to factor in that probably half of that, or so you may want to make a usage to be double the number of hours that would normally come in under because it's not being used even though he said I used that piece of equipment for 8 hours on usage, that would be, you would, and again, that's a kind of a feel your way through. When if you think it needs to come in a little more frequently, then lower the number. It isn't like this is nothing is really super hardly locked. I really talk good today. Nothing is locked here that you can't just make the change to make the adjustment. We're trying to make this more user understandable than programmingly sound. In other words, we're allowing you to make these changes where normally you say, well, hell no, once you've assigned it and start using it, you can't change the delta. And there's a lot of systems that are like that. So you have to create a brand new code to put a new delta in. So again, there's things, and we don't know in the end, we might have to put some restrictions on it, but we're trying to keep it as a philosophy so that you can make any change you need to make it work for you.
Okay,
But again, usage is a good one because it's always coming in. It's always it's always being updated. You don't have to do anything. When you start, if you can apply the usage, then you don't have to get a mileage. You don't have to get. Now, I do recommend at least putting a days in there to say every 100, 360, once a year at least, we want to do this, preventive maintenance. But if you don't want to do that, you just want to base it on one thing, then go ahead. That's, you guys are in control, not me. I don't run your fleet. You guys have to. So it's kind of what I'm just trying to make something easy. So again, with the fleet management system, they have in Samsara, they have fault codes that are read on the devices. So if you load up the last week's worth of fault codes, you'll see that these are all the pieces of equipment in the fault codes, and you can kind of drill down and see what the fault code was. So this is, kind of a thing. And so you can kind of come in here. And so if you notice up here for making a work order, we added, codes that we don't normally have in here. So because these fault codes came in. So then I can just check these fault codes, and even though it's the same one, the thing is this is for a whole week. So we're going to get possibly 7 of them. You just have to pick one. But we'll generate a work order then with that fault code as the task to be replaced and fixed.
nice.
And where it's really nice is, I'm bringing this PM, but look, I got a fault code with it, so I can just do this and generate one work order that's got all of that. I don't have to do these two aren't ready yet, so I'm going to wait. Or if I want to bring this one because he's in yellow, he's only 23 days. Again, you guys have to decide how often do you want to be bringing the truck into the bay. It might be, this is where this is helpful, this coloring, because you can say, that I want to bring that one into the bay as well now. It's only 23 days away before I'm going to, before it's going to say it's overdue. Then you can generate one work order, and bango, all 4 of those tasks will be on that work order. Make sense? Kind of easier to use.
Yeah.
Okay. And now DVIRs is the driver vehicle inspection reports.
Okay, George,
Yes.
quick question for you. On your color scheme that you've got, is that going to be something that the user can change, or is that something that you're defining?
We're defining it based on your theme. So if you go to like a dark theme, it'll be a little bit different color system. We can't really make it super user definable, but if you don't like the color on the theme you're picking, you can holler at us and we can try to come up with something. In other words, like in my documentation, I need to say it's bluish. So I can't really walk away from being bluish, but I can make the blue lighter blue, darker blue, things like that. If you kind of follow with me for consistency purposes. So if I pick a dark theme, let me just see if I can do that real quick. I got to go find my main screen.
You don't need to change the color, George. The reason for my question was I was thinking it would be helpful if things that are coming due would light up green, things that are due would light up yellow, and things that are overdue by 30 days would light up red, so that at a glance, you know where your priority is.
That's exactly what Tony and I just said.
Okay. Well, anything overdue by a single day will be in blue, but if you're thinking you want something deeper than that, I mean, I don't like the red because red looks like crap on here. Let me try. I'll point that out. We had it as red, yellow, and green, and it looked like crap. The red was really hard to see when the whole screen was half red. It was really an eyesore. So,
Okay.
I'll be honest with you. That's why it became the blue. So I could still go to red on something that's more than, but then again, we have to have a percentage because I don't know. I can't make the decision 30 days is red. You'll have to come up and saying, okay, what would be a percentage number that is over by saying if it's more than 20% over it's red, 10% over it's red. I want this to be flexible because it's different in every road commission. What would be red?
Yeah, we see what you're saying, George.
Yeah.
So do we want, I mean, I don't mind. I could put another percentage bar up here and call it something really cryptic, but we'll get there.
Well, I guess my question is, and maybe Tony can answer, is what is meter completion percentage? What does that pertain to? I mean,
that means if a meter is over 80% complete, I want to show it in yellow. If you want that to be 90, you can make it over 90%, we'll show in yellow. And I won't see the ones in yellow then. Let me see if I can get back to one that would have a yellow. There we go. So like this one.
Essentially the life cycle of your oil or of that time limit that you've set on that.
Yeah, right. This
Okay,
one
I
said,
gotcha.
if you see here, this one says every 180 days, I want to do a brake inspection or every 20,000 miles. Well, it's not the miles that's 80% complete. It's the days. I only have 23 days left of 180. That's definitely within 80% of 180. Now, the math is a little harder, but you don't have to think about the math really other than saying, when I'm 80% done or when I'm 80% complete, I want to see, my life come in with a yellow at least. If I don't like it, I can make that, 90. And we're going to make that so you'll have a place to, set it so that it will remember what you last set. It's just not in right now. But so that if I recalculate and I go back to that same one, that 23 days doesn't show up because it's not 90% done. It's only, it was at 80%. So 90%
Gotcha.
would mean the day would have to be 18. So we'd have to be 18 days away for that to show up in yellow then. So it's just a way to say, hey, if I want to go crazy, I want to say, hey, I want to see everything that was 50% done in yellow. Even though this one's 54 days away, it's in yellow. Because that's over half of the, I'm within 50% of the 180 days. I only have 54 left. And I wanted to show what was left. I didn't want to say, you get my point. I don't want to show the real mileage here. I want to show what was left, how much is left, and the plus means you're overdue. And I felt like that was a real shorthand way of seeing the information that I felt like you guys need. Now, am I wrong? Do you think that's going to be a nice shorthand way so you don't have to have, scroll way over to see all the different meters and their values? Or not?
You took the math out of it for us.
Well, I didn't really. I mean, I don't want to sound like you're dumb or not. You guys are smart.
No.
I'm just saying, what's the point of you having to go back and say, God, is that almost ready? I can't tell. Well, you got both numbers right here. Here's a 365. It's every 365 days. I've got 239 left. Your brain can make that decision because ultimately, whether this is checked or not is your brain deciding.
No, that makes sense,
Yep.
George.
Okay.
Yep, sure does.
Okay, so we thought we did good, but if we didn't, yell at us. So let's go to driver inspection reports. Samsara has a part of their DVIR that says if there is a problem with the truck, you can, not just in the notes, you specify different defects, and that's what they call it. Now, other fleet management systems will be a little bit different, and they'll call it something different. But again, you notice that, again, this one showed up because it didn't used to be there. They showed up because I loaded these. So these are showing the defects that were set on the vehicle. And again, this is because they're different days on there. So the vehicle's the same vehicle really, but it's just, again, you get this. The problem is I can only load a date range. I can't just say, give me the latest DVIR because it's not always with a defect. You got to deal with the, when you have a system like this, you got to say, okay, I'm going to go and do this defect down here, and I'm going to deal with this. I'm going to mark it, and I'm going to put it on a work order. Now it's been dealt with. So then we can update this to not show it again, if you follow all of that. So this is just, the driver said the, check engine light was on. I don't know why he's driving the vehicle when that's on, but okay, I'm going to live with it because evidently that's okay for them. Because clearly he did it on this day, and then he turned around and did it on this day, and then he turned around and did it on another day. So this last week they've been driving this thing. Now that might be a permanent thing that's been redressed and fixed. I don't know. You'd have to go up onto Samsara and light it up to find out. But we're at least bringing the information from that external system into here so that when you're building a work order, you can take advantage of it. Now, if you don't have any of the fleet management set up, these two, the windows wouldn't even show up on your screen. You just have a big window here. Is kind of how we're building it. But I wanted to kind of show you all of what, and if you have, and it's not just Samsara, we're, like I said, we're going to be working with Fleet.io, I think is what the name of the thing is called. Paul, what's the other name of the other one that we're doing? He might be on the phone. But anyways, you get the idea. It's not just going to be one provider. We're going to be able to interface with multiple providers.
Paul stepped away to handle a call, I believe, but we had talked about Fleet.io and AutoSyst as two other systems similar to Sarah.
Similar to this, yeah. And it's not that difficult for us to get, interfaced into it. It's not like this is a nine-month kind of thing to build the interface. But anyways, you guys, can you tell me, what's your feedback on this? Do you think this is going to be much easier to use and maintain for it?
I think so. I mean, it'll take, like it says, I mean, just looking at it right now, it'll take a little bit of time to play around with it and implement it, but I kind of like everything being in one spot right now.
Okay, so let me kind of go with some of what we call one of the downsides is when you're trying to put together your work orders, you really got to click each individual one of these. So this is just for this work order. But then if I hit, go down and hit the down arrow, I go to the next piece of equipment, and then I can, click on that. So there's not a single button to generate them all. Okay, so it is going to take you to, kind of look at it. And I don't know if this is going to work. I'm going to try it. Yeah, I didn't think so. So basically then they hit the create the work orders, and then everything that I had checked would generate a work order for the vehicle 150, 154, 159, and 160 with tasks on there that have each task is a separate, each one of these PMs and the fault code and everything else is a separate task on the work order. And to equate that to the old one, that would be a work order line. But it's going to be called, a work order task now instead of work order line. So I think I can still bring up an old work order here. Yeah, so I can bring up this one here. Yep, and that's what I thought. They didn't. In our old system, you could get away with just making a work order without a work order line, but that breaks half of our other internal systems. So that's why that's another reason why we want to redo this so that all the pieces are there. So you'll never have a work order without a work order. And this will say work order task, or will probably just say tasks. So you have the general, then you'll have the task kind of a thing. Okay, So that's kind of where we are right now in all of our madness of making a better preventive maintenance. Do you guys have any insight that you can share with me of something I may have missed?
Be recorded, George, so we can look through it again.
Yeah, it's recorded and you can look through it again. I'm just asking, if there was it would be obvious. You guys would say, oh God, they didn't do this.
Hey, George,
Yes.
down the road, will we be able to generate reports that will be able to list out equipment that is showing it is in need of preventive maintenance?
We have that report now for our old system, but yeah, it would be, I mean, obviously the screen is easier if you just bring up the screen and whammo, you got it. But if you need it in
Right,
paper
but if you wanna-
form,
Right, but if you were to print it and want to bring it to, say, your fleet mechanic, or your chief mechanic, and say, all right, here's a whole bunch of equipment that either didn't get updated or is actually outstanding. I need you to
Oh.
double check this. Our mechanic doesn't necessarily have access to Cogitate.
okay. Doesn't your mechanic have access to Cogitate? I'm just asking the simple question. If somebody's going to sit there and sit down and do these PMs and keep track of this,
Right.
the PM cycle, they're going to really need to be access to Cogitate. It
Right,
can't be
and
a
we
front
could-
office.
And right now, that's our fleet manager. And
Okay.
so possibly with training, we might include a mechanic. But right now, if you were to poll our mechanics, most of them would say that they aren't comfortable with computers enough to take on that responsibility. Not saying it
Okay.
can't happen, that it can't be trained, but right now they're fixing equipment and we're taking care of data entry with our office staff.
Okay, so my thought would be, in that case, you would be printing work orders and handing work orders to mechanics. Is that not what would be happening, you would think?
Yep.
And not
Mike's
a
shaking his
report.
head, yes.
Yep, that'll
Mike
work.
is shaking his head, yes.
Yeah,
That'll work.
you wouldn't be handing him a report that says these are the 10 pieces of equipment that need to have something done to it, because the report won't have what needs to be done. It'll just say they need something done to it.
Okay,
The idea here is you'd have to generate a real work order. So then that way he's got a work order to charge equipment to, he's got or inventory to, he's got a work order to charge his time to when he posts his, if you guys are using my work. Now, I'll give you, because you're here, and of course it's on the video, but I might augment this off the, official release of this. We are planning on doing a thing called My Shop. That will be a web base so that the mechanics can put their notes in on a work order via their cell phone or a tablet or whatever is connected to the web, as well as a DVIR systems for you guys to have your own, if you don't have something already, a way the drivers could go out to their cell phone or tablet or whatever you provide and do a DVIR report, and it's stored, as well as an inventory ability to check the inventory. So if you're out on the, if the inventory clerk guy is out on the road and he's looking to say, shit, do I have 10 brake, do I have enough brake pads for this? He can look it up in his stock to see. And if he's at the store, he can buy 2 more if he needs to. And the last part, there's 4 things. Let me go check the word. Yes. Oh, yeah, right up in it. Meter reads. We were going to have that a place you could put the meter reads in. That's what it was. So that's coming, to a theater near us at some point.
that's awesome, George. You guys are doing amazing.
Well, better than average, I'm sorry.
So do you have the ability to, so if you create a work order, can you create work orders yet on this?
Yeah, I don't think, unfortunately, the current release I have, I'm gonna stare over here at Colin. You think we have something that will give us a selected item or not?
Not more than your.
It's not ready. No, I don't have something I can show and tell real quick on that will do it.
No, the only thing I was asking about, so you have to go back, you go back to last month work order on truck 150 and you want to bring up the work order and it will list the parts that were used in that work order.
Yes, the work order itself will be keeping track of what parts were used in that work order. It'll have the parts that were suggested to use in that work order, and it will have the labor that was done in that, for that work order, charged. The thing is, the difficulty becomes when the work order is finally closed, that kind of we're kind of putting the seal of approval of, there's not really a lot more changes on it. And there's a delicate balance here because during my work, we only allow them to put hours into open work orders. We don't let them put an hour onto a closed work order.
No, what I'm asking, so you got a Ford pickup truck, you got an alternator and you replaced it and it's in your inventory and it'd just be quick. Okay, well, I replaced an alternator, a month ago. Bring that work order up. There's your code, your inventory code and basically, what it is.
It would be, let me just kind of go through real quickly for you.
What I'm asking.
Yes, I understand what you're asking. So if I can bring up the existing work orders. La, 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 la. So if I look at the parts history, I don't think this one has it. It's still open. I gotta go get a closed one. Hang on. It's hard to tell what's a good one. Nope, I think these history tabs are dead. But I can go to the work order line. This would be parts required. Yeah, it'll have it in here under the labor history and parts history when we finally get these up and running. If I go to the old system, let me see if I can go to the existing system because that'll show what we currently have. And I can just verify what you're doing will follow that if this is what you're asking.
Okay.
Oh, yes. Okay, fine. Download my update. Yeah, I know it's busy. All right, so if I come here and you go to the parts that were used, you mean like on something like this? So it would show here?
So inventory code is fine, but what is that inventory code?
Yeah, no, we're gonna have it inventory code for inventory when we find a chunk of inventory. So if we go over to inventory. Fine. It doesn't like me running it 2 times on the same machine. Okay, so if I go over to inventory, this is kind of what we have, for the inventory. We have the code, the name, the description, things like that we can show.
That's how much of that stuff would show up on the work order?
Probably the code, name, and description.
Perfect.
Probably the type as well, whether it's a part, raw material, that's what will show up.
Yeah, that's better than what you've got right now.
Oh yeah, absolutely. No, we're trying to make it because the thing is after you've used our system for 8 years, you like all the cryptic because it's just quicker and easier. You don't have to see as much. But when you're brand new, you're like, I don't understand any of this. So they stop using us and get something else.
Yep.
And it's a shame because, here we are, we're trying to, provide this for you guys so that you don't have to buy something else. Because with preventive maintenance, I think we have maybe 5 road commissions using it right now. All the other road commissions have gone to something else or are just doing pencil paper. Because our existing one is just so hard to use on certain aspects of it. And again, you had to be the guy that knew every little piece of equipment. I mean, I know you guys know your equipment codes, but boy, oh boy, when you come in brand new, it's a daunting task to know the difference between my Ford 150 and my Ford 151. You know what I'm saying?
Nope.
Okay. Any questions you guys have for us about this?
Well, like Lisa said, we'll go over the recording once again and
Okay.
get some feedback to you.
All right, please do so as soon as possible. We're gonna keep working on what we have, making it function correctly, but one of the things you're losing, by the way, is we used to have like don't do the preventive maintenance during these months. I'm not going to have anything like that anymore.
That's fine.
Because I like
It's good here.
Everybody else we've talked to in our previous meeting said they don't use that. So why do I? You got to understand the brain logic it took to make that function correctly was enormous.
No, we don't need it.
Yeah, it's like you guys are you needed something that's good, simple, and easy to use with. Oh, one of the things that I didn't mention that I want to mention because it is going to be cool when we have it is inside of, let's go back to equipment. Inside the equipment overview, if I happen to already have done this PM, boom, and I made a work order for it, so there's a pending work order. If I want to add to that pending work order, I just got to do that and hit create work order, and it will add to the pending work order that has these other two on it. It won't create a brand new work order for it.
Okay.
As long as the work order is pending. If it's not closed, then obviously it's not going to add it to a closed work order. So that's cool.
Mhm.
But the other can't be said. We won't remove a task from a work order this way. We'll just add to it. Because you might have mechanic notes and other things like that that's been put on, or there might have been labor assigned already to it or parts assigned to that task already. All right. That's all I have for today. I appreciate your time.
Sounds
No, I
good.
appreciate it, George.
Mhm.
I'd be looking for this end of June be released. The other question we have, and this is the hard one, conversion from your existing work orders into this so that this, so the new system will use that is going to be a little bit less than optimal. So we're talking about, we tried to do a conversion with a database to build the tasks and everything, and it's just too all over the place with the way the old system did it. So we're thinking you're just going to have to kind of start fresh somewhat. I don't know yet. We'll keep looking at it, but it will have to be something where you're going to have to probably regenerate your preventive maintenance cycles again. So there'll be some unpleasantness, I'm sure, when that happens.
So you're saying we're gonna lose like the last 2 years of work orders then?
No, work orders will be there. I didn't say that. I said the preventative maintenance cycles, what tasks you have, what was the deltas you had picked, and all the pieces of equipment being set up with, this task, that task. I'm just saying it's going to be possible that we won't be able to convert that into this new system with any kind of regularity or ease. We're trying. Okay, I'm not going to give up the ghost on it yet, but we spent a good amount of time trying to do a conversion and it didn't work out. We haven't gotten it to work out very well because what happened in the old system, and again, it hides it's a flaw of the old system that's been hidden, is that work orders that don't have something due won't ever show up. And people don't realize, okay, yes, you can do that. It won't ever show up. So I don't know what to do about it. So when we did the conversion, it kind of shows that big time because almost every one of your items will be due for this system. When we did the conversion, showed almost every one of their items was due for a preventive maintenance. Yeah. It is because basically they didn't have a meter read. They said they wanted hours on the thing. They never really used hours, so the old system didn't care whether it had hours or not because it was only going after what was over. So, for instance, if I said every 70 hours I wanted to see something, but I never had an hours meter read, the old system would never bring it in because there was never anything that bumped up over 70. The meter never bumped over. So, but the fact that you have it here, we're going to bring it in because it doesn't have a read or a value.
I mean, I got no
Yeah.
problem starting off from scratch, and that doesn't bother me none.
It should be pretty easy to at least create your preventive maintenance items. The only part I have is they're going to be similar to the ones you use that you're currently using. However, the last done date is going to be a little bit rocky. And if you see here, this work order number won't be ever, you won't ever see that in the new unless we can pull that conversion over. So we'll keep working on it, but I just want to let you guys be aware it might be come to the point where it's too different and the conversion ends up, because the other thing is we had, Colin, what was it, nine tasks all called, task schedule A. That was their name because that's what they called it in the old thing. And 9 of them, they all had different days, hours, meters for their things, but the name was the same. And it was very unclear, to me, that's like, well, what if I'm converting, that doesn't help me, stuff like cabin filter, brake inspection, fluid checks, oil checks, safety inspection, stuff like that makes sense to a task as a name, not, schedule A. But you guys can call it what you want.
We have
But
to start from scratch. It is what it is.
Yeah, it is kind of well, again, if you bought something new, you're starting from scratch then.
Exactly. It's gonna be a little laborious in the beginning, but heavy lifting in the front and easy on the back.
I agree. But like I said, I don't want to give up the ghost on doing something that will provide a reasonable level if we can. Good. All right, like I said, I'm gonna end this. We'll put another big blast out to everybody with the thing. Sorry about the mix-up. I did send out the email, but it looks like it just sat in my inbox as a draft. So evidently I never hit that magic button called send to all the people that were supposed to get it. So that's why we don't have as many here.
All right, well, thank you, George.
All right,
Yeah,
thanks,
appreciate it.
guys. Yep. Let's see if I can do Zoom now. So screen sharing, we stop the screen sharing, and then I say end for all.
You are now working smarter with ProFund Accounting. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more content like this.